All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Going to be touching on the top outright bets here for the Houston Open, as well as giving you guys some other placement bets to go with those golfers. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I do just want to start with kind of pulling up the 9-to-5 write-up. Just got done writing this, and I'll just recap kind of the outright bets that I wanted to end up on. So I will say, Scotty versus the field is going to be pretty intriguing. If you choose not to do that, I like these other prop bet or these other outright bets that we could potentially get. Now, I do want to call this out, guys. This is something that has progressed throughout the year to be one of the more predictable things in terms of a predictable week in terms of outright betting and really just DFS purposes. We have 5 golfers listed as statistically good outright bets this week. And how that's determined is by looking at the past 2 years outright winners and just kind of putting together in an equation, data point, and just whatever. It's kind of like the AI version of saying which bettors or which golfers are going to be the best outright bet. We have 5 this week, which if you guys have been following along, I don't think we've had 5 really this season, maybe like twice, maybe 3 times, but we really have had 1, 2, we really just haven't had that many good outright bets. And this week we have more. And the last 2 times, the outrights, it was Scotty, but the last 2 times where we had multiple ones, Scotty won. So definitely something interesting there, I will say. So I do think betting Wyndham Clark does make sense. I do think betting Siwoo Kim, even though I don't want to, does make sense. And I do think potentially Doug Gim can make sense. Long shot bet, not terrible. So I did put those down as my favorite outright bets, but let's go ahead and get into those. So I actually want to start with the player that I think is my favorite outright bet is actually going to be Jason Day this week, guys. Jason Day is coming in with some of the best form. He has some of the best course history, 3 straight make cuts with a top 10 finish. We're going to see that in his recent form as well. The only one bad data point is going to be recent form 5 where he missed a cut. Top 10 staff it, basically top 12 or better in all the key metrics that we really care about. A little bit of knock in the specialist data, which the specialist data takes in all the unique characteristics for that week's tournament and puts it into a data point, but he's really standing out as a great play. And I like the odds that we are getting on him as well. So we get into Jason Day as an outright bet or just in general betting wise, we can see we are getting the same line across the board, about 25-1, which to me, like let's say you take out Scotty from the field, you could argue it's Tagala, Clark, and then Day. Those are the 3 clear-cut players you should be betting on. And if we look at the other 2, the odds on them are significantly reduced. So I really like this line that we are getting on Jason Day. It feels like a very good line. If you wanted to bet him to make the cut at 0.3-1, that feels like a decent bet as well. But really just across the board, he's looking like a great bet for you guys this week. From there, let's get into my next favorite outright bet. That's going to be Mackenzie Hughes. Now, Mackenzie Hughes does have some slight concerns, but I do like partially the number that we're getting on. I think 55-1, 60-1, pretty good odds that we're getting across the board from. Like that does feel correct. But we go ahead and kind of get back into the write-up. Really logically speaking, he's tracking all the boxes that you would want. Okay, Mackenzie Hughes, 4 straight make cuts of this tournament with a top 10 finish, 3 straight make cuts as well in a row on the PGA Tour with the top 10 finish. The only concern a little bit is going to be stat fit, but more so my concern is that weather-wise, not the best in bad weather situations and not the best in harder scoring track. But that being said, that's why we're getting him at such a good number. That's why he's so cheap in DFS as well. And he's still like the 23rd best specialist in the field. This course could actually end up playing a little bit easier than it has in the past as well because it's playing at a different time. Tony Finau came out with a quote saying that the course is a little bit softer because it's played in March rather than in the fall where the greens are a little bit more dry. That makes sense. And so we could actually see this course play a little bit easier, which would actually help out someone like Mackenzie Hughes a little bit more. And like he's just been playing great golf and the finishes have been getting better and better, it seems like as well. So he's someone that has shown recent upside. And I do think we could capture that upside. He could potentially win this week. And so to me, those are the 2 starting points we want to go with is actually going to be Hughes and Jason Day. The next one that's really looking like a great outright bet is going to be Tagala, but we also have Wyndham Clark. To me, those 2 plays are going to be the exact same. Obviously, if you're not betting Scotty, you probably do want to get some exposure to those 2 because really, like I said, it's going to be Clark, Tagala, and Jason Day. Those are the 3 really high-end golfers that have a great chance to win. So obviously, Clark has been someone that has been trending in the direction for a win over his past 2 events, finishing runner-up in those events to Scotty. And so maybe you can finally get him this week. Honestly, I think that would be a big motivating factor for someone like Wyndham Clark, who does seem like he needs some motivation to play well, whether it be big money events or majors, right? That could be a motivational factor for him. And I just think that that's something we should be paying attention to with Wyndham Clark. You can get him at 12-1 now on average. So that, obviously helps out a little bit. It's not a bad bet. Heck, if you wanted to bet him to top 10, you could 1.4 to 1, not terrible, but really he is just looking like someone I feel like we should be going out our way to outright bet, just given the lines that we are getting him. They feel solid, especially if you're not betting Scotty. Let's go ahead and then jump into Tagala, because again, these two players I think are a little bit similar. I would say Clark maybe a little bit more risky, slightly more risky, whereas Tagala a little bit more safe, maybe a little bit less upside. But the fact that you can get Saeed Tagala at 20 to 1 on BetMGM, that is just too low, especially compared to the average odds that we were getting at 17.5 to 1. Tagala is one of those plays where this just seems like the perfect spot for everything to come together for him. And so we look at his profile for this week. He is looking pretty good. A little bit of concern, I guess, with a little bit of course history. But I mean, across the board, we know Tagala, he's very hit or miss. When he's on his game, he is on. And we see recently he's been on with 3 top 10 finishes over his past 4 starts. Love that there from him. And, I would argue he's due for a victory. This is the perfect spot for Clark and Tagala to get that W. Now, Siwoo Kim's also popping up as a statistical outright winner. And we kind of look at it, guys, like course history, not the best, 35th and miscut, but that's not terrible as well. Like his first start here over the last 4 years, miscut. Most recent start, 35th. If that gets better again, maybe can find himself in contention to win this year. We can see he's the 4th best specialist in the field. I think that's kind of huge, especially when he's in the 3rd best recent form and the 8th best stat fit. Yeah, it makes sense why he's popping up as a really strong play. And this is a week in which we're not going to have that many golfers coming in checking all the boxes. And so the fact that his one knock is 1 miscut at this tournament, I'm okay with that. Like Siwoo Kim makes a ton of sense. And so we look at the odds we can get on him, about 30 to 1 on average, which again, take out Scotty, those are pretty good odds. And then we go ahead and look at some of the other outright bets. Really just Doug Gim, 58 to 1, still one of the better stat fits in the field this week, guys. Pretty good recent form minus last week's start. And it really just a bad weekend for him. Not terrible. If you want to go Keith Mitchell, I wouldn't blame you. If you want to go Willie Z, I wouldn't blame you. But those are not bets that are really standing out. Now let's go ahead and jump into the 9 to 5 EV tab. These are going to be the best EV bets on the board for this week. And I'm really shocked that the industry doesn't cater to this a little bit more. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but to me, guys, a lot of the things in the fantasy golf industry are designed to make things harder and less clear for the average person, and I don't really know why. It's very strange, and so I've really tried to dial in on making stuff as simple as easy as possible, and so that's why I think a tool like this, the EV sheet, makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing that I know I could make better is just do like US books and European books, because a lot of the times Bet365, not everyone has access to that, but a lot of the time they are giving you the best bets across the board. And this doesn't have anything to do with my data, just as an FYI. This is just comparing the average lines versus the lines for that said book. And we're seeing the top bets are going to be Bet365. You can get Siwoo Kim as about a 3% edge there. So what I add in there as well are these line payout differences. So we can add that in here. That's an optional tool. And so let's say you bet $10. I just put that as the unit bet. You get a payout of $15 for Siwoo Kim, whereas the average line, it would only be about 12.89, which that does add up. So again, let's take out Bet365 out of that. And really, let's just focus on the main books. FanDuel, PointsBet, and BetMGM. I think those are the most popular ones. Let's just focus on those ones for now. Where are we getting the best EV bets? Jake Knapp to make the cut. We saw this last week with actually Bazoonhout and also Nick Taylor. Those were the 2 best made cut bets that we had, and the best EV bets that we had. Really not terrible. So again, this stuff will add up. If you bet $10, you get a payout of, or a profit of $5.8 compared to about just $5 on the average sportsbook line. So that is a decent edge. You can get that on FanDuel. Parker Cody to top 20. Not exactly one that I like, but if you guys are just focused on good EV bet, we can see that's a pretty good chance. BetMGM's only given that about a 15.38% chance, whereas the average sportsbook line is given about an 18% chance. Again, if you make these correct decisions in the long term, especially with golfers that you like as well, that's going to add up. So like Sam Stevens is a player that I'm perfectly happy to end up on DFS wise because he's a good win player. He's actually the best win player in the field. Made the cut last week. Don't mind maybe a top 20 bet for him. BetMGM's giving him about a 15.4% chance. The average book is giving him a 17% chance. You bet $10, you're going to get a payout of $55 on BetMGM rather than the average sportsbook line of about 47.7. Again, that stuff adds up. That's about a 7 for a difference there. But a lot of the times these will be less than stellar plays. I get that, but I do think that this is a good way to go about betting on players that you think are great. And another way you can go about looking at this is just going into the best bets tab. You could click on a player or whatever. Outright wise, we could just whatever. There's too many books going in there. I will admit that again. Like Mackenzie Hughes, though, if you were to bet on him, we can see the best sports book would be PointsBet at 60 to 1. So that's just another tool at your disposal. And then that's going to be it. It's a little bit too early for prop bets for first round. I can show you guys actually first round. No, I'll say that for a different video. Just I want the tee times first. And so we don't have any 3-ball bets as well. But that's going to be all for today's video, guys. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. Do appreciate that. If you want access to those tools I was just talking about, showing you guys, available for just $10 a month. Crazy value for you guys. I priced it that way for you guys. Thanks for watching. And as always, let's keep cashing.